Hi everyone and welcome you all, Shadow here, and today we're getting down to business to delve into the extraordinary Briar Witch Iseria, or as we fondly call her, Briseria. I started using this unit 7 or 8 months ago when I finally knew how I wanted to use her and how she would fit in my playstyle. Her amazing kit makes her a very flexible unit capable of being the perfect choice for a good quantity of scenarios. No fluff, no fuss, we're diving deep into the essence of Briseria. From her skills to the gear and stats she needs to become a solid pick in your roster, the top tier artifacts, tactical gameplay insights, and take a closer look at her role within a team in order to check what units can exploit the benefits she provides. So no more delays, let's begin. Skills priority will depend on the use you actually want to give her, which I'm going to break down later in the video. To keep it simple, for now let's mention there is a damage build and a speed one. For both, the highest priority is hers too. Since the effect of units not being able to revive is not affected by mod investment, actually the reason you want to use them here first is because this will increase her hit chance up to 50%, allowing you to land hits more frequent on evasion units like our friend here. Just to make myself clear, with this I don't mean you are going to always hit this kind of units, since there are some artifacts and units that can affect the increase in this factor, but it's already a great advantage over them. Just watch out on these particular details. Next, having almost the same relevance as skill 2 is skill 3, but here's where we start to have some slight differences based on your choice. This attack hits all enemies, dispelling all buffs, while having up to a 75% chance to defense break them and up to 100% chance to make them unable to be buffed. For the speed build, you can upgrade it up to +4 to increase the chance of landing the debuffs. As for the damage one, you need to go the extra mile and do the last upgrade. Highly recommended since you want to hit hard while using this build, especially against units single target can reach like Spectre Tenebria or Rangers using Guiding Light. Last but not least, you want to focus on her S1, but this is only mandatory for the damage build and you can leave it optional for her speed version, just in case you want to increase the chance of landing the defense breaks for when your cliff couldn't get rid of all the units after your follow-ups. I really encourage you not to go with the speed version just to save some molas. Both builds are really worth the investment, just upgrade at your own pace if you are lacking molas, especially at the pace Smilegate is releasing new and limited units nowadays. As a recap, prioritize her skill 2, then work on her 3, and leave skill 1 last. Now, let's explain a little bit more what do I mean by damage and speed builds. And here we are, maybe about to wish you have 2 copies of her. I would include myself in that statement, but months ago I got very lucky getting a second one in Galaxy Summons. But I really hope you get your second one soon if that's what you actually want by the end of this video. So, why 2 versions? Briseria can fulfill 2 different roles in a team, therefore the need of different stats. Let us start with the sets the speed version uses. Most of the times, you will want this version to be your opener, which is why a speed set is mandatory, along with a crit or hit set. If you can't meet the desired stats with those offsets, you can always rely on a broken set. In order to explain the priority in the stats for this version, I need to mention you can have 2 variants for this. Full speed with whatever other stars you can have or want on her, whether those are crit chance or effectiveness mainly, or high speed with crit chance and effectiveness. You may be asking, why 2 variants for this version and not focus only on speed? We'll explain this later in one of the upcoming sections, so bear with me a little bit more while we get there. Continuing with the topic, now we have the damage version. This one also uses the speed set as its main set, with a chance to use Destruction 1-2 if your gear allows it. Surprisingly, for offset we find that around 60% of the high rank players in RTA find immunity the best in slot for her, helping them to avoid unnecessary and troublesome debuffs like attack down or provoke, allowing them to use her S3 with full power and without problems. Didn't farm A13 that much? Don't worry, other options to consider are Torrent, Crit and Hit Set. Yes, I mean it, Hit Set again but not for damage version. The reason is because here we also have 2 variants, full damage one and a kind of a damage support build if somehow we can name it like that. For the damage build, you want to focus on attack and crit chance, working next on your speed and crit damage. For the second variant, the slight difference is that you want to give just a little bit more priority to effectiveness, willing to sacrifice few speed points in order to get the desired stats. Now, let's see how these priorities impact the actual stats, talk about what is non-negotiable, and where we can be flexible based on your playstyle or current gear capability. Regarding the speed version, for variant 1, preferably you want to aim at least for 290 speed or as fast as you can get her. In this case, as your second priority, give her as close as you can to 100% crit chance or something between 70 and 100 effectiveness. You can't go wrong with either of them. With this particular variant, personally I would choose the crit chance stat as my second priority, and I will share with you why in a moment. For variant 2, try to aim for something between 270 and 280 speed, 100 crit chance, and as much as you can get of effectiveness, preferably more than 130 if possible. Compared to the previous variant, this one in particular is giving almost the same importance to those three stats. Do you have an idea of where I want to go with this? I promise everything will make sense later on. For the damage build, variant 1 is very straightforward. 100% crit chance and as close as you can to 4k attack as your main priorities, followed by 230 speed if possible and as much crit damage as you can get after you already secured the previous stats. Comparing with variant 2, main stats remain the same. However, you want to add around 100 effectiveness in the build and play around with the speed. Consider something between 215 and 230 based on what fits better your playstyle or the amount of crit damage you want to have, being 250 the minimum. Here are my current builds, which have been really useful to me, especially in Arena and GVG. I would try to push the speed of my fast version a little bit more without sacrificing the rest of the stats if possible. As for the damage one, I know I said the best slot for her was the immunity set, but I always try to draft a cleanser with her. That's why I decided to go for a torrent set and get more damage. Now, let's complement this information with the best artifacts for her, shall we? Briseria can have a couple of best slot artifacts based on the version you are using and the content. But if you don't want to continuously change artifacts, Andres Crossbow is your best friend for the speed version, since it not only increases effectiveness by an additional 20%, but also increases hit chance by the same amount, allowing you to hit evasion units with additional support, for example, Saber aiding with Moonlight Dreamblade or units team up with Assassin Cartuja. Nonetheless, if you don't mind swapping artifacts from time to time, maybe for an arena or guild war attack, Cursed Compass is even better when there are no evasion units in the team, since it provides 30% more effectiveness than the previous artifact, helping landing those debuffs easily. But if you are planning to Soulborn her S3, then this additional effectiveness doesn't matter at all, and you can just get a benefit from the hit chance Andres Crossbow provides, or from any other artifact could be useful at that time. On the other hand, Guiding Light is not recommended for this version, since most of the times will be your opener to clip, but it's definitely the best choice for the damaged version. The reason is because you want to protect her as much as possible, at least until you could use her S3 and deal with kill units on the other side, whether those are the revivers or DPS units. A few others feel comfortable using Misha Artifact as their main one. This one is like Andres Crossbow or Briseria's damage version, but instead of effectiveness you get more crit damage. This artifact is used more if you use her in an aggro draft because you want her to get a turn without being attacked or debuffed somehow and take advantage of the damage the artifact provides, or can be used in Arena and Guild Wars where you have more control over what will happen in those fights. I can mention 2 or 3 more artifacts that Briseria could use, but I can assure you most of them are situational or for a very specific team that tackles certain content. To give an example, I have my damaged Briseria on Sasha Ithanius for a clip team I have for Arena, but I would change it whenever I have to do RTA. Instead of covering this, let's jump into the final section of the guide, where I'll be answering some of the questions I was leaving pending throughout the video. Alright, first up, let's talk about the speed version of Briseria. Content-wise, this version is definitely a really great unit for Arena and Guild Wars, mainly for the current meta that is being used in the defense teams. Regarding RTA, recently she has seen some action surprising people here and there, but it's still not used enough as the damaged version one. I'm going to be explaining what advantages Speed Briseria has over the other openers, so that you get to choose when to use her. You can overlook some of these points that I'm about to mention, since the consequences could be minimal from your point of view, but most of the times I just like to go with the safest strategy. Where can I use the speed version of Briseria? First, when Karina is in the team. That one is a very famous opener nowadays with current meta, due to her whole kit and her non-resistant Soulborn. However, she can still miss on Karina, giving her a chance to survive, following by her S3 and potentially killing some of your clip units. Moreover, if Knuckles' artifact is maxed, she has a 50% chance to land defense breaks, against a 75% chance that Briseria has on her S3. Therefore, if Karina evades Knuckles' attack, she misses some defense breaks, and your follow-ups don't have enough DPS to deal with their team without a debuff, there's a high chance something goes wrong. And believe me when I say I have seen this happen a couple of times to friends and myself. You can just run against Karina, true, but just watch out on the following. Second, when there is a relevant Earth unit, like Destina, OVL, or Xenia. Ran is one of the most OP openers out there, with Soulborn being able to ignore resistance too. If he misses and follow-ups are not able to deal with most of the team, having OVL survive is not a big deal, but Destina on the other hand, can survive and either cleanse or revive the whole team, while Xenia can potentially solo a whole squishy team if real unlucky and based on Xenia's build. Third, when there are evasion units, she's one of the best options if you want to deal with them, and we have already discussed this in previous sections of this guide. And fourth, when the other team has revivers or units that you feel have holy sacrifice. In the current meta, this is very popular and a lot of people think about Briseria when facing these scenarios. It's a really easy option when trying not to deal with that mechanic. As for the units that are good with her, pretty much any follow-up unit can take advantage of her debuffs. You can think of units like Jaco, Astromancer Elena, Commander Pavel, Watcher Shuri, and Summertime Iseria. If you are trying to use her Soulborn, then you can also include units like Top Model Luluka, Architect Laika, Silver Blade Araminta, Eternal Wanderer Ludwig, or even Politis. Smilegate has given us some really great openers to choose from. You need to bear in mind that it's not a matter of who is better than the other, but who can perform better on each scenario. So adjust accordingly your unit pool, gear, and the meta at the moment. And before I forget, let me clarify this last detail. What's the difference between the two speed variants? The first one is just to speed race with others. Previously, I mentioned I prefer crit chance over effectiveness as the second priority. The main reason is because with crit chance you can pair her with Commander Pavel when cleaving. Not saying effectiveness is useless, but could be difficult to get that high speed and high effectiveness. And effectiveness below 130 will have some difficulties debuffing units with high ER like some Knights or Soul Weavers out there. On the other hand, with variant 2, you can do both, pair her with Commander Pavel and debuff high ER units, without the Hebald Soulborn. So this second variant doesn't care about Valiance that much. This is used when you are sure you are getting the first turn and not speed racing other openers. Sounds not that big of a deal, but the performance could change if you are Soulborning her S3 or not. Let's move on to the damage version. Compared to the previous one, this one shines a lot in RTA, being the preference of the players by a lot. You can still use it in Guild Wars for some attacks here and there, and definitely in Arena there are better options than this build. Not saying that you should avoid using her though, just not as regular as other meta units for this content. Here, the difference between the two variants of the damage version is pretty simple to explain, and it relies on the fact that you find value in the chance of debuffing units with low and mid effect resistance or not. Maybe you enjoy doing big damage and decide to go full aggro, but that's it. Literally no other reason to differentiate one from the other. Both variants work really well, not that one is better than the other, just a matter of which one you like better or find useful according to your playstyle. She has some really interesting numbers RTA wise, which make her a valuable member in your roster for sure. She has a win rate of 56% when being picked, while people tend to ban her 25% of the times. It's normal to say that she is being banned the most when she is chosen during the 4th and 5th picks, although she regularly is chosen during the 3rd pick. Why? Well, during the meta in the Inside season, people started to first pick Abyssal Yufin, or having made Chloe and Destina as their 2nd pick, which was reason enough to bring Briseria as a counter in their 3rd slot. Most of the times, you will be picking her in the 3rd, 4th, or last slot, since there are no strong reasons for her to be the first pick. People will have the chance to draft accordingly, making her not a threat anymore. She could have some issues when facing units like Savior Aiden, since she still has a 20% chance to miss the hit on her if facing a Moonlight Dreamblade or Shepherd of the Hollow build and assuming you are on Guiding Light. Abyssal Yufin and Last Rider Crowd can be added to the blacklist since Yufin can counter like crazy, getting you out of steal and potentially dispelling immortality when she uses her S3. Last Rider Crowd is a natural god unit when you are going against units with AoE attacks, so it's a good mitigation option people use against Briseria. And, funny as it may sound, you can actually pick him together with Briseria in your draft to be your mitigation against the other's draft. They really have good synergy, especially when facing other units with AoE on their kits, but, additionally, he can also provide her with immunity if they are well speed tuned. Conqueror Lilias and Spectre Tenebria have also good synergy with her. Conqueror Lilias will add some control and support to the team with her Vigor buff, while Spectre Tenebria is just another DPS that can hide behind her illusion passive buff, forcing your opponent to hit other units they may not want to hit at that time. As I mentioned in my previous guide on Ares 1, this is a game that relies on team comps more than single units only, so just think about how they perform as a whole and not by themselves. Unless we are talking about specific units like a Visual Griffin, then yes, maybe they can solo a whole team at the end, but that's another topic. Alright, we got to the end of this guide. As a summary, Briseria can be used in a lot of scenarios and is very flexible when building her to add value to your roster. One of the strongest options to hard stop the revive mechanic in this game, as well as dealing with evasion units easily. If you found this guide valuable, please consider liking this video, subscribing for more guides, and activating the notification bell to stay informed on future releases. Let me know in the comments below which units you would like to see next. I already have some options in the pending list, but I'm always open to reading you guys for suggestions or special requests. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, see ya!